So we will start in the next 1 minute. Hemant, you can go ahead and put your screen.
National Repository on Language. Nice. Big shit.
Hemant, over to you.
Thank you, sir.
You can start.
Good evening, all of you. A warm welcome to the webinar, which has been conducted from Dayanand Sagar University on New Education Policy 2020. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Honorable Chief Guest, Principals, Teachers, and my dear colleagues, I welcome you all for the webinar. So today I'm very happy to host the webinar on National Education Policy of 2022. So before starting the webinar, I would like to show you the video of Dayanand Sagar University.
It's already late. Where's Arjun?
He's looking for universities, right? Maybe he's held up there.
You look so tense. By the way, did you get to choose the university?
No, I'm unable to find a university that meets my requirements.
Whoa. Meet your requirements? What exactly are you looking for?
I'm looking for a place that gives me an opportunity to grow, to excel, to invent, and to win. I want to be a part of an institution that paves my way to discover myself and to witness the world moving forward in technology. I want to go to a place that sets a futuristic pattern of education filled with ideas and radical performances. Basically, I want to live my dream.
Dayanand Sagar University, live the dream.
Once again, I'm welcoming all the speakers, dignitaries, teachers, and the students, and my dear colleagues. So I'd like to introduce our speakers. Okay. So first speaker will be our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, Professor of CSE and Vice Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, former Vice Chancellor of PS University, Bangalore. Sir holds a bachelor's degree in Electrical Power Engineering, master's degree in Electrical Engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and PhD in Computer Science and Engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Sir has worked as a research specialist in parallel computing at New Mexico State University, USA. Sir is currently a member of Karnataka State Higher Education Council and the Academic Senate member of IIT Dharwad. On behalf of all the DSU team member, I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Hemant.
And our second speaker, Dr. H.S. Ganesh Bhatt, a teacher, researcher, extension worker for over the 4 decades. He has contributed creative for teaching, learning pedagogy, examination reform, and policy formation. He is a member of visiting team for NAC. Presently, he is a member of Task Force on School Education, NEP 2020, Government of Karnataka. So, on behalf of DSU team and all the people, board members, I welcome you, sir.
Namaste. Thank you.
And the third speaker, Ms. Rama S. Patnaik, CEO, WEITTC, Head Digital Transformation Projects, Learning and Development Experts, and Sales Coach, a startup mentor for edutech companies, professional in innovation in business and delivery process, outcome-based education specialist, and expert in digital pedagogy methods, trained 10,000 professors in innovation in engineering teaching, outcome-based education, digital content, Pedagogies and 4G education trend. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
Hemant.
also our moderator, Mr. Srinivas Shinde, who is our Chief Marketing Officer for Dayanand Sagar University. A warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers for today's session.
Thank you so much, Hemant.
I request our Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor, to take over.
Thank you, Hemant.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, respected resource persons, Professor Ganesh Bhatt, Madam Rama Patnaik, the Chief Marketing Officer of Dayanand Sagar University, Ms. Shinde, my faculty colleagues and fellow teachers who have joined this webinar. As you're aware, Dayanand Sagar University has been organizing the info sessions to create the awareness about various components for the benefit of the teachers, benefit of students, benefit of all concerned. Today, we have assembled here to have a discussion on the NEP, the National Education Policy, and also the kind of challenges that we're going to have in the implementation of the same. Let me briefly touch upon a few aspects to understand and also set the context. All of us are aware that Government of India formulates the National Education Policy or National Policy on Education, which is the earliest things, at regular intervals of time to promote and regulate so that the education offered in this country, imparted in this country, is in line with the global standards and also the requirements. That's the whole purpose of having this National Education Policy. National Education Policy 2020, which was recently accepted by the Government of India, and it's also in the various stages of implementation in various states across the country. And this particular policy has looked at the entire thing from a different perspective. The first perspective is it took a fresh look at the whole set of education. Second, diversified. The third one, inclusive. The fourth one is advanced education vision. What should be the kind of education that we need to offer to meet the challenges of the future, considering the requirements of the future as well. The second thing that we also understand from the National Education Policy is to revive the best practices that we had as education is concerned. We are all aware that the Indian education system was considered to be the best in the past. Over a period of time, and we lost some of the components. I think this education policy is trying to emphasize some of those components and also try to give us a direction in which we need to proceed so that we can regain the top slot that we had in the past. In other words, to regain the Vishwaguru position which we had. While the National Education Policy has indicators, has given lots of directions, which will be discussed in detail by the experts after me. I see about 4 or 5 challenges as far as the implementation is concerned. One, we have to revamp the entire education infrastructure. What are the infrastructure that we have? We may have to revamp that a little bit to implement the new National Education Policy. Second, we may have to speed up the digital infrastructure because that is going to be the key in the future. That's going to play a major role. The next the challenges will be improving the teaching standards and formulating guidelines. And the most important thing is to provide funding for implementation of the national education policy. These are some of the challenges that we see. I think we are all aware the teacher training becomes very, very important because teachers play the pivotal role in the educational experience and in the imparting of education. Therefore, teacher training becomes very, very critical. It's all about art of expression. The training sessions are needed to help the teachers with the latest teaching strategies, particularly the technology-led education, technology-led teaching and assessment tools. And if you look at the whole scheme of things in the new education policy, national education policy or new education policy, it touches upon three important aspects. The first aspect is the curriculum design, how the curriculum design has to be. The second aspect, which is the directions are being given, is with regard to teaching learning. The third one is the assessment. Basically, whatever is going to be done in the future has to be reflective and credible. That is the kind of principle with which the national education policy has been laid out. When we look at the whole kind of way exactly the education is moving, it appears how few as a pointers are there, few inputs we get, pointers we get. One thing that's very clear in the future is going to be that the education is going to be targeted towards the personal learning through customized content. Means each and every student can have pick and choose the learning pattern, pick and choose the content. That's one thing which is going to happen. The second thing that also being seen in the future is with regard to the learning has to be lifelong learning because the things change quite rapidly in the future. Because whatever's being learned today may not be of too much of relevance 2 or 3 years down the line, because everything is going to evolve for a period of time. That's the second thing that's being. Then the third thing that's also been predicted is that the graduates or the people with education must be able to pick new ideas, pick new concepts, pick new skills, and try to become cosmopolitan citizens. Means they must be in a position to work in multiple environments, multiple cultural settings. That is going to be the order of the future. The other thing that we also being seen is that the education in the future will face lots of disruptions by the evolving technology. Basically, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, AR, VR, that's augmented reality, virtual reality, robotics. Everything is going to get into the field of education in the coming years. Then there's also the kind of problems or the kind of things that are going to be handled in the future will be a lot more complex than what we had done in the future. Therefore, overall, it appears that the future will be much different from what we have today, although few extensions may exist. Therefore, it's necessary for the entire education fraternity, particularly all of us, need to understand and plan and ensure that the students of the future are well prepared for facing the challenges of the future. Last, what I would do is I would quote Albert Einstein and close my opening remarks so that the speakers would take over and talk about it. Albert Einstein had mentioned long back that education is not learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. That is critical. That's education. Therefore, future is exactly the statement that's been given by Albert Einstein long back. The second statement that the saying of Albert Einstein is that his quote is that education is what remains after one has left the school. Whatever that remains after the school is what education is all about. Whether that education still remains with the individual. I think the future, we need to get into that kind of mode of education. I'm sure the experts would tell you more about it. And they'll also tell you what are the things that need to be done and what will be the kind of trends for the future. And with this, I thank the organizers for inviting me to be a part of this webinar and request the experts to take over and tell us more about the exact components of national education policy, what is the spirit, how things would evolve in the coming years. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our second speaker, Dr. H.S. Ganesh Bhatt, to take over.
Good morning, everybody from across the country. First of all, I thank Gyanadhar Sagar University for giving me an opportunity to interact with a large section of teachers. Professor Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, Sri Shindhe, all the participants and my co-guest today, Rama Patnaik, and all the viewers of this program. The background of the policy has already been given in a nutshell by Dr. K.N.B. Murthy. I proceed a little further. Let the screen be there so that the participants will be in a position to know what are the components that I'm going to cover in a short period of 30 minutes from now on. Now, the National Education Policy 2020 is not something totally a new policy. This is a policy which is an extension from the rest of the policies in India. Now, to give a small background of the National Education Policy, the whole issue started with 1948 policy, which was the first of its kind soon after the independence in India, which was called University Education Commission Report, headed by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. That report said that the secondary education is the weakest link in the Indian context of education. Later on, we had another report in 1952, which was headed by the Moderator and the popularly known as Moderator Commission report, which gave three important objectives of the secondary education. One is the leadership, second is the citizenship, third is the vocationalization. Even this national education policy also speak of all the three in another different way. The next policy was 1964-66, which is Education and National Development, headed by Dr. Kothari. Now, whatever the kind of education that we have got in India today, more or less is based upon the structure, the pattern, the curriculum that was given by 1964 National Education Policy. Now it said 10 plus 2 plus 3 pattern of education, 3 language formula. These are 2 very, very important things that is there even today in the context of education. This 10 plus 2 plus 3 years, 10 years of compulsory education, a general education, in order to see that every child in India will be in a position to get some sort of know-how of the society. That is general education. After 1964-66, there was a policy which was there with MHRD when Narasimha Rao was the MHRD minister and Sri Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. 1986 National Education Policy. That is also one of the very important policies because it made open several reforms in the teacher education and also in the secondary education in terms of the public school system. All of us know that all over the country, we have the schools which are called the Moderator Vidyaliyas, which are the quality education institutions. I have visited many of them, and many of you also might know about the Moderator Vidyalaya. When the Moderator Vidyalayas were started, they were thought of to be Airavats, white elephants. And then people commented a lot and then said, such kind of institutions cannot be run in India. Today, you know, it's very popular, and the children who study there come from the rural background, and they are the meritorious students who join the institutions at the age of 6. And then they leave the institution when once they finish their 12th standard. This is what is 1986 National Education Policy. In order to make the policy to be implemented, it had a document which is called Program of Action. Now, the 2020 National Education Policy is also a document which is the continuum of the rest of the policies. Never think that this is something which is very new. There are certain new points in terms of the restructuring of education and then making emphasis on India-centered education. It is not that the Cocurricular Commission did not speak of the India-centered education or 1986 policy did not speak of it. They did speak about it. Now, what is India-centered education? Now, the whole world is moving towards what is called the knowledge society. Therefore, the vision of the National Education Policy is, it is to touch the life of each and every citizen of this country. Now, this is a very, very serious task, touching each and every citizen of the country in terms of education. Therefore, the National Education Policy today, as it was told by the Vice Chancellor in the earlier session, that every learner need to be a learner and they have to learn on their own. In order to make the process of learning to happen, it is not that it is a direct teacher involvement, it can happen through the digital media. For everyone should be able to get some education or the other is the vision of National Education Policy. Second, it is to create the development initiatives and to give a just and equitable society. Equitable society is always a challenge to any government. See, earlier, you know, there was a great thinker in education belonging to the period of Dr. Kothari, one by name Sri J.P. Nayak, who was the person in the field of education from Indian Institute of Education, which is there in Pune. Now, what did he say? He said, equality if it is at one vertex, the quality if it is at
Sir, you are not audible.
achieving equality, achieving quantity is a tough task. But the National Education Policy says we need to move towards it. Therefore, it has the Constitution as its basis, the United Nations Declaration on Education related to the right to education of the child, where elementary education must be a compulsory thing to be given to all children. Now, this National Education Policy takes up this as an oath. That means all children who are there outside the school system need to be brought into the school system. You cannot have a child who is away from the school system. Now, the National Education Policy also says that in the university education, at least 50% of the students belonging to that particular age group should be there in the Indian universities. Lots of ambitions are there with the National Education Policy. Then, it is to meet the challenges of the 21st century goals. Now, what are 21st century goals? It is not that they are something very, very new. Every child must be able to communicate well. Every child must be able to identify the problem. Every child should be able to go for critical thinking and the creativity. These are the most important things in national education policy. Therefore, the vision is quite wide, but the way in which the vision is to be taken forward depends upon the institutions that are there. Therefore, in what way we have to do it? What are the major changes that are going to happen in the structure? Let us go to the second point. The major changes in the structure of education today is not in terms of the 10 years of schooling, it is going to be 15 years of schooling. What is this 15 years? 15 years will be, we had earlier the Anganwadis, the Balawadis, the Balavatikas, where the pre-primary education was given to the children in India. Every state has got its own name for it. Normally, it is done by the Social Welfare Department. This is the child will come to the school at the age of 3, lives to the 4, lives through the 5. When once the child becomes the age of 6, the child goes to the primary school. There is a pattern that is existing. Now it is the responsibility of the government to give early childhood care education to the child. This is as per the Amendment 86 in the Constitution, which was done in 2002. It is the amendment in the Constitution, which said that the early childhood care education is the major responsibility of the government. Why did the constitutional amendment happen at that time? It is because, as all of us know, there are plenty of stories which speaks about the importance of the child, importance of the child when it is in the mother's womb, and when the child is there in the family. Now, what are the things that the child is going to learn at the age of below 6? The child gets its left brain activities, the right brain activities. What is the left and what is the right brain? The right brain will tell you about the emotional components. The left brain tells you about logical sequences. Now, both these things will get developed when we happen to speak well to the small child. Speaking well to the small child means what? The kind of the language that we speak at home, the kind of the language that we speak in the college, the school, and the kind of the atmosphere that I am going to create for the small children in the age of 3 to 6, everything gets counted. And 85% of the total brain gets developed in the child below the age of 6. Therefore, the National Education Policy 2020 emphasizes on the foundational literacy and foundational numeracy. What is this foundational literacy and numeracy? The child coming to the school at pre-nursery, LKG, UKG, and Standard 1, Standard 2 becomes the first 5 years of education. Later on, year 3, the 4th grade, the 5th grade, that is 3rd standard, 4th standard, 5th standard, all together it becomes preparatory stage of education. That is the second level. For now we have covered 5 plus 3. The next 3 is the 6th, 7th, and the 8th standard. The kind of the pattern that is there in the central school and the Navodaya Vidyalaya. Navodaya Vidyalaya starts at 6th standard. Adarsh Vidyalaya starts at 6th standard. Morarji Desai School starts at 6th standard. Therefore, the 6th standard, 7th standard, 8th standard becomes the middle level of school. What is the next stage? The next stage is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th standard. That becomes the secondary level of education. Now, this policy, national education policy, makes it very, very clear. Do not use the word intermediate education, pre-university education for the +1 and +2 levels of education. It abandons it. Therefore, up to the 12th standard, it is going to be school. So please understand, it's going to be a school education. Now, if this happens to be the school education, the restructuring therefore will become 5+3+3+4. Now, what is the curriculum expectation? The school curriculum, what should it contain? Now, the school curriculum, the National Education Policy 2020 says the early childhood care education should have the curriculum wherein which there are a lot of issues that are related with the child being able to speak well in its own mother tongue and also other languages with which the child can be made familiar. What do I mean by this? Now, Andhra Pradesh is there, Maharashtra is there, Kerala is there. These are all the countries which are co-joined. We have got the borderline schools, border area schools. For example, if you take the Karnataka state, Karnataka has got Kasaragod with Kerala, Belgaum with Goa. Now, what is going to happen means a child who is studying in the Belgaum must be able to learn a part of Marathi, and the child who is there in the other border should be able to learn some Kannada. Now, in the early childhood care education, it speaks of a lot of stories. It speaks of music. It speaks of theater. It speaks of the alphabets that ought to be taught to the child. It should be some sort of languages that ought to be learned. And the child must be able to have the knowledge of some number and counting. And the child should know about the colors and the shapes. The child should know about the drawing and the painting. And the curriculum shall not focus too much on a formal reading and formal writing. This is the early childhood care education. For up to the standard 2, the child must be taught by using different techniques of the folk art. It can be puppetry, it can be drama, it can be visual art, it can be music, it can be moments. You know, I'm a teacher. I'll be coming to the concept of the teaching when it comes to experiential learning. The very way the teacher moves in the class is a process of education to the child in all levels of education. I'm not only speaking of the early childhood care education, all levels of education. The way the teacher is going to stand, the way the teacher is going to make use of his arms, the way you are going to show certain signs in the class, everything gets added. And these things should get converted into an experience in the child. For that becomes the experiential learning. Now, when it comes to the school curriculum related to the preparatory stage, the school curriculum in the preparatory stage will have the foundational literacy and foundational numeracy, where you are going to teach them the numbers. You are going to ask them to count. You are going to ask them to subtract. You are going to ask them to make simple multiplications. For this is about the curriculum of the early childhood care education and the preparatory stage. When it comes to the preparatory stage of education, what are the things that are going to be there? There will be textbooks at the preparatory stage. Now, these textbooks are not the textbooks which are going to be overburdened to the child, the textbooks are written in the national education policy in such a way that they are not going to be made curricular only in nature. Even the co-curriculum is going to be blended with that. Because the school curriculum in the national education policy insists that there is no distinction between curricular and the co-curricular areas in the process of learning of the child. We used to call debate as a co-curricular activity, the Coco as a co-curricular activity, Kabaddi as a co-curricular activity, NCC, NSS, etc. were considered as extracurricular activities. Now we do not have any distinction like that. Therefore, the present textbooks are going to have some sort of a revamping, where mathematics is there, the child will be studying about the addition, subtraction. Immediately, there can be some activity related to mathematics, which is shown in the book itself. Or the teacher should be able to think of in what way I can bring some sort of a co-curriculum with the teaching of mathematics. I can give lots of examples in mathematics because basically I'm a teacher of mathematics. A union B, A intersection B. What is common in the two communities becomes the intersection. What is there in both the communities together becomes the A union B. What is a null set? A null set is one where there is nothing. You cannot have an Indian society where there is a null set in terms of the cultural activities or the religious activities. It all depends upon the way in which we start thinking about it. For the curriculum at the preparatory stage will be generic in nature. What will be the nature of teacher at the preparatory stage? The teacher at the preparatory stage is called a generic teacher. A generic teacher. That means a teacher who knows the subjects at the lower level, like mathematics, environmental science, social science together, and that teacher will teach. And there can be 2 or 3 teachers who are specialists in language. And you know, the national education policy speaks of what is called school complexes, where there is a sharing of resources of the teachers. That is the human resource. For one art teacher may be able to feed for 3-4 schools. One Sanskrit teacher may be able to feed for 4-5 schools. For this is the way in which they are going to think about it. Therefore, the preparatory stage is the stage which is the generic one. The next stage is the middle stage. Now, what is the middle stage? It is the 6th, 7th, and the 8th standard. Now, in the 6th, 7th, and the 8th standard, the curriculum is going to be more formal in nature. That means when I teach physics, I teach physics as physics. I teach chemistry, I teach biology, I teach social science into geography, etc., etc. Therefore, more concepts are going to be taught at the 6th, 7th, and the 8th standard in a formal setting. Therefore, it expects here that there should be subject specialized teachers at 6th, 7th, and the 8th standard. For that is the curriculum. Now, when it comes to the next stage, which is a very, very challenging stage, the secondary stage, which will be 9th, the 10th, and the 11th, and the 12th standard. Now, what are the things that come in the 9th, 10th, and the 11th, and 12th standard? It's going to be divided into semesters. Now, 9th standard to 12th standard, there will be 8 semesters. Now, the semester 1, semester 2 for 9th standard, semester 3, semester 4 for the 10th standard, semester 5, semester 6 for the 11th standard, semester 10 and 11 for the 12th standard. Now, what will be the pattern of examination? It says the 10th standard examination is going to be made optional, and the student is going to take the examination at the end of the 12th year of his education. If you take the pre-nursery also, it becomes 15th year of education. That means the child will be free from the school at the age of 18. Now, you know, when you say it is the age of 18, 18 is the age where the voting power also comes to the child. For that will be the responsibility of the schools today in order to prepare the children well to fit themselves in the society too. Now, this is what is a curriculum. Now, in the curriculum of the secondary school, the challenge that is posed by the national education policy is, it is not simply 6 common subjects as we have got today. What are the 6 subjects? The child is going to study mathematics, child will study science, the child who is going to study social science, child studies 3 languages in some states, 2 languages in some states. Therefore, 3 languages, 3 subjects together become 6 subjects. Same pattern holds good even in the pre-university level. If a student is student of science, he will get physics, chemistry, mathematics, computer science with 2 languages, or arts or commerce, whatever it is. But what is suggested in the national education policy? Every semester, child who is going to study 6 subjects. Now, there are some subjects which are common. The language may become common, mathematics may become common, or accountancy can become common, commerce can become common, depending upon the kind of electives that the child is going to get. Supposing the child has got 4 common subjects in one semester, the other 2 will be electives. What are these 2? These electives may, one is physical education, yet another may be vocational education, or it can be skill enhancement courses. Therefore, from the secondary stage, the curriculum is going to change in terms of multidisciplinary subjects. Therefore, all the teachers in the secondary school probably need to take up this as a challenge. Multidisciplinary in nature. Therefore, the child may study many subjects by the time he finishes the 12th standard of education. Along with the core subjects, the child might have studied about 7 to 8 different subjects, including music, theatre, arts, etc. For that is the way in which the changes are going to happen in the curriculum. Now, coming to the experiential learning, it is up to the primary level. What all the kinds of the activities that you are going to do in the school, it should be learner focused, not the teacher focused. Teacher is a sage on a stage was the truth earlier. In the digital platform, Dr. Rama Patnaik is going to speak about it in detail. Teachers' role will become a facilitator's role now. I cannot be a sage on a stage. I need to change myself. Lots of activities are to be provided for the child to learn better. That is experiential learning. Holistic education. Education is not to make the child get 100 upon 100 in mathematics. It is also to make the child to be a good dramatizer, a good poet, a good communicator, a good problem solver, a critical thinker, a creative person, a person who will be able to adjust with the team, a person who will be able to cooperate with the team. For that is the holistic concept of education. It is the overall growth of the child. I have seen many intelligent students, those students who are really good in their subject, having been miserably failed in life because they cannot adjust. I know head of the institutions, I know the vice chancellors, I know the registrars, I know the deputy commissioners, I know deputy directors of education, block education officers, very intelligent people, but they cannot work with others. This is not expected. Therefore, holistic education refers to 360-degree development of the child, overall development of the child. When I speak of the overall development, the physical component, the spiritual component, the emotional component, the cognitive component, the psychomotor component. We need to focus our attention on it. Supposing we have to do this for the holistic development of the child, the assessment of the child also becomes very, very important. I cannot simply assess the child at the break of 3 months or at the break of 6 months and then say you have not studied. The policy will not allow for it. For what does the policy say? The policy says that you must be able to assess the child on a regular basis, on a continuum, in a comprehensive way. For this, we call it as continuous, comprehensive assessment of the child, evaluation of the child. For when I want to make it continuous, comprehensive, what are the challenges the teacher is going to face? Problem number one, if a child has not learned something today, I must be able to prepare him to learn it tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Ask him whether he has learned it or not. Test him whether he has learned it or not. A child who is incapable of pronouncing the words properly in English or in Kannada or Telugu or Punjabi, whatever it is, we must be in a position to make him to speak that particular language well. Now, when to judge it? As I move with the child in the laboratory, as I move with the child in the school premises, when the child speaks a little, I must be able to catch the words that the child has not been able to say properly. Correct it then and there. Thus, that is the diagnosis, and that is what is the remedial nature. To put everything in a nutshell and then say what are the special advantages that the teacher has today with reference to national policy, I would like to make the mention of only one point. There is going to be a national repository of resources. And there is one more program which is called National Tutoring Program. Now, all the teachers who are listening to this program, you can become specialized teacher in some area or the other, and you can be recognized at the national level. And if it is done, you will be in the platform of the National Tutors Program, where as a special teacher, you can be seen by all the teachers in the country. That is what it is thinking of. And you must be able to make use of the local resources that are available in and around your school. There may be a film artist, there may be a theater artist, there may be a musician, there may be a sports person. You can request them to help for the school, which is called a voluntary service that is given by the people in the community to the school. Even this is going to be encouraged. Therefore, the national education policy, in order to put everything together, is a document that will speak about the teachers, that will speak about the students, that will speak about the administrators. Now, the school education is going to be considered as a platform for the future India, because whatever the child carries from the school, he carries it to the university. What do I mean by it? Most of the characters are developed at the school level itself. Supposing the child is a hard worker, he continues to be a hard worker. If the child becomes a smart as well as a hard worker, child becomes a smart individual when he goes into the university. For that is the thing that is present with the National Education Policy 2020 with reference to school education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our third speaker, Ms. Rama Patil, to take over. I'm over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Hemant. Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome to this session. Thank you for being this. It is overwhelming response. We have 270 plus people logged in. Very happy to see that huge list and interest to know about NAP. And, it's really good that, teachers taking out time on a Saturday, irrespective of their hectic schedules and very packed, timetable and all that. Still, you have taken out the time and being with us is really great. Thank you so much for having us here and listening to us. Right. After Dr. Ganesh ji's session, and as well as Professor Murthy's session, that's very intense sessions, very informative sessions, very comprehensive sessions. Today, now I'm going to discuss about how digital adoption is required, what kind of changes are expected in the future because of this so-called NEP, and what is that, how we have to gear up basically, right? Because everywhere, wherever I go, whichever the educational conference I attend, right, or any kind of seminar, everybody, all of us are talking about NAP, and there are certain kind of myths, there are certain kind of assumptions, there are certain kind of fears, there are a lot of things happening, right? So friends, I take next 15 minutes or 20 minutes to talk about practicalities, little bit on field, on ground practicalities, especially with reference to the teachers and as well as with reference to the school management. So before I go ahead with all these things, I would like to know how many of you are into the leadership positions. Could be the principals of the schools or HODs or admin heads. If you can just quickly raise the hand, I would see how many of you are from the leadership background, right? Or can I request people who are into the role of principals, a role of HOD, a role of admin heads, right? Or taking care of certain activities of the schools, right? Can you please raise the hand? There is a small icon on your screen, raise hand. Can you quickly do that? I don't see any raise hand. Hemant, do we have principals and all here, or
Yes, ma'am.
or it's only the teachers?
No, ma'am, we have principals,
Okay, great.
teachers,
Right.
and we have the decision makers also.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. I just wanted to know, do we have that kind of audience or not? That's all right. Thank you so much. Right.
Raise the hand.
Yeah, right. Okay. So friends, before I start my session with my PPT and all, yesterday, we had one session in the night, night 9:30 to 11:30. It is an international conference. Discussion. This roundtable is based on discussion about what happens to the software development in 2030. Right? You must be knowing what is this topic, what happens to the software development, isn't it, right? Software development is already booming, it is the most in-demand profession and all that, right? So, let me give you a few glimpses. I thought this will be very, very interesting for you all, because 2030 is not so far for us, just another 8 years, right? So, by 2030, every work or every task or every functionality where the same task can be done by two people, like for example, driving. So more than one person is doing that, right? The similar kind of task, same functionalities, same operation, same accelerator, brake and clutch kind of thing. Washing, disc cleaning, or, any kind of routine jobs, all routine jobs where more than one human is involved is going to get automated. Right? It's not so far. By 2030, people say that there is no work where human is required, right? Where it is very routine. That means there is no brain is involved so much. There is no creativity is involved. There is no emotion is involved, right? It will be automated, right from the banking, right from the education, that is our concern actually. The education, the whole education, domain will be automated. Any kind of thing. Even people say that, some of the admin jobs, I mean, like governance jobs also will get automated. So then what is that humans are going to do, right? So if everything is getting automated, what is that humans are going to do is a huge question, which was discussed yesterday in a international conference, right? So this is something which I wanted you all to know, being teachers of the next generation, right? Point number one. Point number two is something more interesting than the point number one is our, that is human nature, human character, our human behavior is monitored by the technology, right? By 2030, what kind of student you are, what kind of teacher you are, what kind of wife, what kind of husband, what kind of son, everything, your behavior is completely monitored by the technology, right? That means there would be certain set of, code of conduct, how a human being should be behave, or, like act, how a human being should, what do you call, like act upon certain things, react and respond, everything. So that is decided by the technology, right? So I will give you a small example here. Here, like, when you use Ola Auto or Ola Cab and all, you give the rating to your driver. Similarly, the driver also give the rating to you, saying that, are you a good customer or not, all that stuff. So that means you are endorsing each other's behavior as good driver and good customer, right? Similarly, we have been giving feedbacks in the schools, like, good teacher, good student, and good doctor, good patients, right? So like that, everywhere this feedback performance system will come up, which decides our behavior. That means you can't become a bad customer, you can't become a bad student, you can't become a bad boss, you can't become a bad employee, you can't become a bad son, bad father, bad mother, right? The human relations as well as, professional relations will be monitored by the technology. That means, the complete characteristic of human is controlled by the technology. This is something which we have discussed yesterday. Like, these are the two key points which has come up in the international conference. I thought I will share with you, because this is very, very futuristic thought where the entire education system has to think about, because our students are going to live in this kind of world in next coming decade, right? So with that, I will start my session. And once again, good morning. And I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know whether you are able to see the screen or not. Are you able to see my screen?
No, not yet, ma'am.
Not yet. Just give me. Yeah, now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much. So friends, welcome to NEP 2020. I'm going to talk about teachers and technology. Basically, these are the two key points which I'm going to touch upon. To take this further, you would see a new term here, tech gen gurus, right? We have been talking about the students, millennium students, X generation students, Z generation students, tech generation, digital natives, digital origins. There are a lot of names, terminologies for the students. But of course, as your students are changing, we also need to change, right? So we call all of us, all the teachers on the call as a tech gen gurus, right? So we are going to teach the digital natives and digital origins, right? So fine, quickly, please look at the chart and, write only one word about this. what do you think about NEP in one word, right? Please only write one particular word, either bold, practical, forward, and comprehensive. What is your thought? Can you quickly put your thought? How do you want to describe about NEP in one word? I would like to see this in the chat box. Can you please describe?
Q&A is enabled, ma'am.
Yeah. Can I see in the chat box, what do you think about NEP in one word? I'm not seeing any of the responses. I would like to see the responses from all of you. We have huge number, 270 people logged in.
Now chat is also enabled.
Yeah, chat is also enabled.
Rama, you can see it in the Q&A box.
Yeah. I'm able to see in the Q&A box, right? I see practical, comprehensive, innovative. Innovative, I haven't said, but somebody said it is innovative, far-reaching. There are different ones. I wanted from the list which I have given, beginning of new education era, Vijay says that comprehensive, forward thinking, bold is more on deciding quickly. Okay, great. I'll see more advancement in teaching. Okay, going to happen a great change in the education and the society. Yes, somebody says practical. Wow, that's great. A lot of things. Sheila, Ms. Sheila has given various definitions, right? That's great. That's great. Yes, friends. Okay, that's great. So I have seen most of the answers as comprehensive and forward thinking, and a couple of answers are there for bold and practical also. But based on your responses, I'm taking it as NEP is all about very comprehensive approach with the forward thinking, right? I'll take this part. And let us go to the next one. Look at this. And can we have another word from this, right? So I have 4 words for you: new skills, professional skills, personality development, and social requirement. From these 4, what do you think which is very near to the NAP? Quickly, right? New skills, somebody says new skill, and complete building a person with skills and knowledge. Okay, personality development, correct. Okay. Can we have quickly answers in the chat box? Social requirement, professional development. Okay, right. Okay. So there are a couple of answers on the social requirement. I have seen social requirement mostly, right? So I will go to the next one. My last question for you, right? What do you think NEP is all about? Is it assessment? Is it teaching? Is it technology or learning, right? Which one you feel that NEP is very close to? This is very important question, right? Please do answer. How do you describe NEP in one word with this 4 words? Any one word you have to choose.
Learning is what is coming out.
Yeah, right. Learning. It's many people are saying learning.
I said comprehensive, but comprehensive is not here.
Not
Technology
here.
of learning.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Learning. Yeah, I see a lot of learning here.
Assessment, learning,
Yeah,
learning.
Yes.
Social requirement,
Yeah.
teaching, learning. Yeah.
Learning. Yeah. So yes, I take this as learning because a higher percentage voted for the learning, so I'll take it as learning. So friends, if you look at the whole concept, yes, NEP is all about learning, right? It's not like earlier we were not focused on learning, but NEP has reinforced the importance of learning in the whole education system. as Dr. Ganesh sir and as well as Dr. Murthy Garu has, very much specified and stressed on is what learning is the key component, right, in the whole NAP system, right? So we are going to discuss about what is this all about the learning, right? We all know that education plays a very significant role in the human life, right? And what else it can do? Let us see this, right? So for learning or teaching, whatever you say, we need a teacher, right? So teacher is the key stakeholder or the key parameter in the whole education system, right? So why do we need a teacher? A guru kyun chahiye? Why we required a teacher? Okay, if I asked, most of the students, why you need a teacher, right? Surprisingly, please friends, look at this. Surprisingly, the answers are to crack the exams. Exam clear करने के teacher की जरूरत है, right? Or if I have some doubts, I will go to my teacher and get the doubts cleared. Some people said very clearly, if I need some kind of guidance, right, in any of my professional or personal, I'll go to my teacher, right? And some decisions with reference to my profession, if I have to make, then I, go and discuss with my teacher, right? These four answers are, we are very happy to get, because we are doing our job and all that stuff, right? But, right, unfortunately, very less percentage, not even 1%, less than 1% said that I wanted to know about myself, right? Teacher is something where I rely on, right? My learning is because of the teacher. These answers did not come. I'm not disappointing you all, or there is nothing like that. This is an outcome of a survey which we have done in last year, right? During that online, thing is online was very peak at that time, right? So, but hope you all understand the relation between a guru and a student supposed to be, to find a purpose in their life, especially in the secondary and higher secondary schooling time, right? Maybe after 12th and all, it is all about the professional career, maybe other challenges, but this is the crucial time. As Dr. Ganesh said, the crucial time is secondary and higher secondary, where they acquire their skills and all that stuff, right? So they should know what is their potential and how do they transform their potential into their capability, right? So this is what the actual role of a teacher in any student's life, right? Now, are we playing this role? Is a question mark, right? Are we playing this role, right? Answer could be yes. For some, I'm making a very generalized statements, overall statements, but not very specific to any of one particular teacher. No, these are very generalized statements. Now let me look at the current status. This is quite interesting, right? Last year, right, we are all forced for a transformation, which is digital transformation. A great digital transformation happened last year. We are, all of us are, deep dived into the digital transformation. Every teacher got upskilled, how to do the Gmeet, how to do the Zoom call, how to use Classroom, how to create videos, how to create PPTs, animations, videos, right? Every teacher were upskilled onto these things. And all the curriculums were modified, either they shrinked or cut, or some other thing happened to the curriculums. Even engineering curriculums got tweaked out overnight. Next Monday the new curriculum has been implemented, right? So as well as a lot of edtech happened, right? There are a lot of apps, a lot of platforms, LMS platforms, ERP platforms. There are a lot of things happened in the digital front, and it was so fast. Within 12 months, we all got used to the online, and of course, it is a forced adoption, right? And students are very much quick in adopting new normal. They know how to fool our teachers. They know how to, make some kind of thing, some kind of excuses for the online and all. We have been seeing a lot of jokes related to this, right? Fine, friends. This was 2021, 2020 to 2021. Even now also it is happening. There is a change happened. There is a transformation happened. And this transformation is unprepared transformation. Any transformation needs its own time for preparation, needs its own time for adoption, implementation, acceptance, and practice, right? Every transformation needs all these things, right? Somehow education has gone through this so-called digital transformation in a very rapid way, where we are not prepared. Schools were not prepared, teachers were not prepared, students were not prepared, whole society was not prepared for the digital transformation, but transformation happened. There. What is the consequences of this transformation, right? Any transformation which happens like this, very rapidly, very forcefully, the transformation is not actually leads to a good consequences, right? We have seen a lot of issues, right? We had, I'm a psychologist also, right? So after this digital transformation in last 1 year, I have seen a lot of, psychological issues with the students. Even you don't believe, friends, teachers had called me saying that I have a camera phobia, right? I don't want to face camera and I'm forced to take online classes. How do I come out of this? Right? We used to treat almost like 12 teachers per day with camera phobia. Somebody came out that, until unless I write on the blackboard, I can't teach. That is my restriction, right? That is my limitation, right? But now I have to take an online class. How do I do that? So there are lot of issues, psychological issues happen not only with the students, because all of us are discussing about the student issues, right? Students had issues whether they got addicted to the phones. We have all these issues, but nobody spoke about issues with the teachers. There are a lot of issues which we have addressed on the psychological side, technology side, skills side, right? There are a lot of things which we have addressed last year. Even now also, there are a lot of things are going on this. So the consequences are more on the worst side rather than on the best side. Only one thing best happened is, yes, we all now accept digital. I repeat my statement here. I said we all now accept digital, but not yet started adopting digital. Right? So that is only one good thing happened, but there are multiple things still we need to accept and take it further and adopt this new change. Right? Friends, if I look at the digital transformation, the whole education system is supposed to do so many things. Personality development, Ganesh sir has given us in-depth understanding of NAP, but whether it is NAP or not, right? Education is meant for overall development of the student. It's creating his future life in this 10 years of schooling, right? Giving a foundation stone for whole of his life in this 10 years. You don't believe, I come from the IT industry, right? We have done a research in new recruits, even on the vice presidents and all. We have noticed that the kind of decisions what they take after 40 years in their professional life, right? That decision is based on what kind of education has been given in his schooling, right? That is the impact of the education, right? But digital, in the last 1 year digitalization, what is the complete digitalization is only into 3 parts. One is the content, where you have Byju's with the content, we have White Hat Junior, we have, what is that, Vedanta, Vijeta, Vidyalaya, whatnot. There are a lot of content-driven apps. There are a lot of communication driven platforms like WhatsApp, email, Telegram, whatnot, right? Chatbots, right? We have a lot of communication driven apps and then evaluation. So do you think that the whole education is only these three, right? Whole education is only delivering the content and evaluating them? Do you think that whole education is that? Answer is certainly not. This is the big mistake happened in 2021, where we said that education system is digitally getting transformed, right? It's not complete system. It is only maybe 10 to 20% of the whole system got transformed. The content was online, right? Communication started digitally and evaluation started digital. That's all, nothing else happened. Okay, so that means there is another 80% digitalization is still there, right? Which is supposed to get automated and transformed. Okay, so which we call it as a system change, right? Change everywhere. Change the way teacher thinks, change the way lesson plans are there, change the way the infrastructure of the school is required. Look at the behavior of the student, and as well as what are your new policies with reference to the digital learning? What are your new engagement techniques on the social platforms, right? So there is a lot of changes need to happen with every angle of every dimension of the education system, which we call it as system change. So let us focus one by one, right? So I will start with the school leadership. As we know that there are a lot of principals and many decision makers are there on the call. These are the few inputs for this leadership team here, right? So school infrastructure, right? All these days we were focusing more and more on beautiful classrooms, huge playgrounds, maybe environmental friendly environment and eco-friendly environment, and as well as green landscapes, right? Canteens, 5-star canteens. We were focusing on this kind of part. But last 1 year, what happened to this infrastructure, right? Were they useful? Obviously no, right? So even going further, right, these are the few questions which we need to ask ourselves, especially in the leadership team, and see how you are going to invest in your infrastructure. Are you going to build another 10 sections? Are you going to have another play ground? Are you going to have another canteen with the chocolate room or pastries and all? Or are you going to invest on digital studios where teachers can record their lessons and all? Are you going to invest on high level of internet infrastructure? Are you going to invest on ebooks? Are you going to invest on the new NEP curriculum which talks about arts and other things, right? How, right? So please, the leadership team, start thinking strategically on this. Where is your investment is going, right? How it is. Okay, now this is point number one. The point number two, which I wanted to discuss, is like your own capabilities, right? As NEP has multiple dimensions, and NEP is asking us to do 360-degree development of the student, right? So all these days, schooling was only focusing on the academics, but now it is all about 360 degrees, right? So can we build every capability internally to the school? Is it possible? Our research and our study says no, it's not possible. So you need to identify what is your strength, right, and build it internally. Wherever it is required, outsource it. Wherever it is possible, partner with others, right? So that means the schooling now is become a common centralized resource facilitator, right? That means you are going to redefine the schooling part, right? You are going to say that this is what I'm strong at, right? Maybe artificial intelligence, right? I'm very strong at, my school is the best in artificial intelligence. Some other school says that I am best in designing. The other schools might say that, I'm going to be pioneering in, civil or some other thing, right? So like that, each school will have a what do you call, a capability which will be shared with other schools, right? So that's how it happens. And the other non-technical, cultural or co-curricular ones can be outsourced. So you may be looking at some kind of academies, theater academies and outsource those courses to others, right? So this is what the future of schools. Okay, so the policies and procedures will change. The classroom will be redefined. Earlier, we know that 60 room capacity, 60 student capacity is a room, and where we have a classroom, right? All that, it's a time to redefine your classroom, right? So what is your classroom? Is it your LMS, or is it your Facebook? Is it your Twitter? Is it your LinkedIn? What it is? What is a classroom? How do you define the classroom, right? Friends, these are the things the leadership team now sit, think and discuss more. Okay, and redefine the teaching, right? What is all about teaching? We know that online is really taking over the classroom teaching, but how? What is the difference in online teaching, right? So maybe you need workshops where the complete focus will be on online teaching. How interactively you can make, how do you ensure? Friends, please understand, attention span of your students in the classroom itself was very less, and we have been facing this problem in online classes, right? But how? That's what I'm saying, we were not prepared for that, right? But still we are forced to take. But it is time for all of you to sit, think and strategize your teaching techniques, right? Attendance is one of the great thing, everybody, all of us know that most of our students come to classrooms only for the sake of attendance. So how do you take the attendance now? What is your attendance definition, right? Similarly, the assessments, right? And recruitments. This is something which I wanted to focus, especially for the leadership team, right? Again, right? Earlier we used to only recruit maybe some kind of operational team, and 90% are teachers. But this is the time where you need to recruit change experts, because NEP is not just academic intervention. It is lot of change intervention, culture shift intervention, right? It is change management intervention, right? Paradigm shift intervention. So you have to look at change experts who will be driving this change, process change, procedure change, everything, right? So change experts are required, domain experts are required, skill trainers are required, and shared resources, right? Because you can't handle everybody on your own. So you may need to go for the shared resources. And new HR policies. Actually, we have been doing the new HR policies for a couple of schools, right? And even universities and all. How do you rate, how do you apprise your faculty members now, right? Earlier we used to take the attendance, performance, feedback, or like pass percentage and all. Now all this has to be redefined, right? And see what are the new HR policies has to be in place, to get in place on this, right? And this is something last one which we have been discussing at the national level with some of the schools, right? Especially Padar and all are into this, right? Of redefining the fee structures, right? So, maybe you will be having a fixed element of the fees, right? As your tuition fees and all that. But, there is a proposal of performance-based fees, right? Based on the student performance, based on, involvement of their, all other, many other parameters, the fees for student to student will change. right? Look at this, right? This is a new proposal which is under discussion, right? Maybe, experts would come back to you all with this kind of fee structure also. So by 2025, schooling will be redefined, right? It's a complete new school, right? Maybe, learner centric. We have been talking about the learner centric, but it will be truly learner centric. And by 2030, it will be liberal education. That means I can choose as a student by 2030, I can choose physics from one school, chemistry from other school, and I may say that I wanted to take the textile design from one school and I wanted to learn dance from this. And this is what my curriculum, right? And I certify myself, right? Maybe after 10 years of my education, I would say that I wanted to get into, artificial intelligence. I'm an artificial intelligence developer, right? I would say, as a student, I would say. Similarly, somebody might say that, though I have done artificial intelligence, but I certify myself more into a dance trainer, right? So I want to become a dance trainer. Friends, this is the biggest paradigm shift, huge paradigm shift, which is going to happen. Self-certification, right? So after 18 years, or maybe the age is not a limit, people would come out saying that I'm good at this, right? There is no assessment, there is no examination, there is no evaluation. The learning process itself says that this person is good at so and so, right? So let's be prepared for this change, right? You all need to work for this particular change. And as digitalization is going to, penetrate into every angle of the school will become no paper school. New role of the teacher. This is something very interesting part. This is, I have been talking to a lot of HR heads also, especially in the educational institutions. Earlier, a teacher used to join and retire as a teacher. Maybe, from 4th class to 5th class, 6th class, these are the progressions. But now a teacher would have a career path. A teacher would have various domains to excel. A teacher would be, looking at different expertise, right? A teacher can become only the subject matter expert. A teacher can become content curator. A teacher can become tech expert. Or teacher can become pedagogy expert, right? So, the whole content, the delivery to the student is a combination of all these things, right? It need not to be only one teacher, right? A subject will be handled by multiple people. There would be one moderator who will be moderating with an SME, content creator, tech expert and pedagogy expert, and then the content will be created and delivered to the students. So the teacher now will have multiple hats, multiple roles to play. You are a curator, you are a moderator, you can become an innovator, a coordinator, problem identifier, not problem solver. He or she will become a problem identifier. We are moving from teaching to training to coaching, right? Like it is very personalized, customized, learning sessions would happen, which we call them as coaching sessions, right? So yes, when we are expecting certain skills in your student, that student should be having emotional quotient, student should have the leadership skill, student should be very good at communication skills, blah blah. We are saying so much, right? But that means as teachers we also need to hone our own skills on that, so that we can teach, we can make our students learn their skills, right? Okay. So curriculum will change. Curriculum will have a drastic shift from the current to something, it's way forward, it is a very, very different. Here, I wanted to put one very strong statement. Hope you all have observed since last 1 year, nobody is talking about employability skills. Nobody is talking about industry readiness. Friends, please observe these changes globally, right? there is no employability skill, there is no industry readiness, then what? Then what? Right? So that is what we are going to say, the future skills, right? Which is like every human being will have their own unique skills where they create their own jobs. They create their own, requirement for the society. As Rama, I need to create my requirement for the society. In what way? It is based on my skill, my capability, my potential. So how do you define a curriculum for each and every student, right? So, it's a strategic, difference on the curriculum side, and outcomes also will be unique to every student. Every student will have a unique change, unique outcome, right? And there is no teaching. It is all about learning. There is no assessment. It is only about the learning and measuring the learnings, right? So friends, these are the few things which I wanted to discuss, right? And, we will be talking more on lesson plans and all, because it's a vast subject. How do you define your lesson plans, which include social learning? How do you define your examinations or assessment for now, which has social platforms outcomes as a part? How do you go for the gamification? How do you go for the simulation? So that means there is a lot of change over here, right? And finally, I wanted to conclude this session, with reference to student, how the student is going to be for, NEP 2020 is, your student is a global learner, right? Here, I wanted to, give two dimensions to this global learner. As a school, you are going to get global students as your students. Let us say there is a school in Hyderabad, there is a school in Bangalore. Till now, these schools are catering to that particular locality, right? Maybe in and around 5 to 6 kilometers. And some residential schools may be having from all over, that particular region. But because of the digitalization, you are going to have your students from all over the world. For example, we are working with one school at Warangal, right? And we asked them, like, why don't you go for a fellowship for all Telangana handicrafts, right? So we are designing a course for this particular school on Telangana handicrafts, which will be offered to the entire globe, right? Every year, 3 months, from November to January, the students are welcomed. They will come, register, they do that. So a small school in Warangal, right, is going to offer a subject or a particular course to the entire world. Right? We have the tie-ups, we got everything for that, right? So you will be having global learners as a school. Similarly, a teacher can teach to their own school or multiple schools in the world, right? A teacher also will become global, learner also will become global, school also will become global, right? Similarly, every learner will be multitask and multi-talented. So, leave them to learn the way they want. That means our framework should be so flexible where it accommodates every student to achieve their goal, their dream, right? So that is where we are leading to. That is where we are heading to. Thank you for listening to me. Hope it helped you all, right? Thank you so much.
Ma'am, we have some questions here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have some questions here. It's open to the jury, to all the speakers. There's one question which I would like to put it across. It is here by Mr. Sudhindra Rao. Are Indian schools aligned to this new concept? Are they ready to accept this change?
It is a question of the mindset that the schools need to have. Whenever there is a change, the change is always not accepted by the existing society, whether good or bad. Because all of us are conventionally bound, and we accept to live in what exists. And whenever there is a change, the changes will always bring a lot of challenges. The most important challenge that any change will have as a problem with it is the mindset of the people to accept it. Now, when the changes happened in 1986, same kind of a thought had come when it had got the DPP program, when it said that I will convert the single teacher schools into double teacher school, and when it said that the teachers have to undergo some sort of a training like a 12 program, technology assisted learning program, every teacher started asking, there will be no computer, there will be no laptop, there is no mobile to do. All these kinds of questions are very natural to come. But as we are proceeding with the 2021 era, and the world is moving in a very fast pace, we as the Indian teachers need to adapt to it. And the degree with which we make the adoption depends upon the leadership in the institution and also the way we accept the challenge. We need to accept it. There is no change. We cannot say that we cannot. When a metro comes, we will get into the metro train. But when the metro train is to be built, there are a lot of problems that are going to happen. Now we have accepted it. It happens. Nothing to worry.
Right, sir. We have another question from Ms. Saraboni Samantha. How do we make the parents to accept and understand these paradigm shifts and marks will not matter?
Will Ma answer this question or shall I?
Rama, would you want to take this up? Sir, you can
Sorry,
go for it.
yeah, right.
Tell me, Shinde.
There's a question here. How do we make the parents to accept and understand these paradigm shifts and marks will not matter?
Yeah, I think let me answer this question. About 2 or 3 paradigm shifts are going to happen in the future of work. One paradigm shift that is being predicted is that the existing jobs are going to be automated in the next 5 to 10 years. A new set of jobs are going to come in. In other words, the new set of jobs require new set of skills. It's more of skills. Therefore, the future is mostly dominated or going to be depending on what is called as competency-based learning. Competency-based learning is the skills, knowledge, capability, and capacity are going to matter. Therefore, in that particular thing, the exact percentage is not going to be considered where they look at the approach taken by different sets of people. They look at the skills. Knowledge and skills are going to be critical more than anything else. That's one paradigm shift that's going to happen. The second paradigm shift that's also being predicted is that future requires skills like which we normally call as 4 C's: communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. Or if all these things are there, there's another C which is being added called curiosity. There's another C which is added called as confidence. If all the 5 C's are there, then obviously the 6th C is going to come in. Therefore, future is more about the skills, more about the foundational knowledge, concept-wise, etc. The other thing that's also going to be done is where you acquire these skills are not going to matter. You have the skills or not is what is going to be the kind of thing that's going to look at in the future. Therefore, the emphasis, while a minimum thing is required, but may not be too much of emphasis on the percentage and the grading and other things. That what is the kind of trend that we see going forward. Therefore, I would say while percentage and other things are going to matter, it must be reflective also. A particular student with say 90% of the marks must be in a position to answer 9 out of 10 questions asked. If that is the case, that's a reflectively. If a student has 70%, if it's also able to answer 7 out of 10 questions asked, that is the way in which it's going to be measured in the future, not the pure percentage. Therefore, it's necessary for all of us to understand and realize that in the future, the way in which the measurement is made is far different from what we do today. I think that's the whole paradigm shift that we see in the future.
So, sir, I would like to add one small,
please.
point to this, right? So, I just, wanted to refer how the Google or Amazon or Facebook are doing their recruitments, right? They're not asking anymore for the percentages. They're not asking for the engineering certificates or qualifications, right? 20% of Google recruitments are from +2, right? Even they just need to cross 18 years, and now they are also thinking about 15 years also, right? Please, friends, understand this shift. The whole education system, especially in India, moves or directs itself towards how the economy is growing, right? When I say economy is growing, where the job market is getting created, where I'm going to get some revenues, where I'm going to get my livelihood, right? So that is how it is. If industry says that, I don't mind whether you are school dropped out or not, if you can solve this problem for me, you are in, and I'm going to pay you, right? So that's how the whole system also will change. If the industry is looking at this shift, system also will shift. When the system is shifting, obviously the society will shift, right? So that is what happened, especially when you look at the engineering. Every second house, not every second, every house has an engineer today, because there is a demand for engineers, right? Similarly, if there is a demand for the skills, whole society will only talk about the skills. All parents will look at the schools where the skills are imparted, rather than who are getting the percentages, right? So I think that adds to the answer of response of Dr. Murthy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ramaswamy. There's another very interesting question from Suparna Sen Gupta. Is there a danger of digital overkill in the future of our education? And followed by another question: how do we ensure quality education in an era of rapid app learning?
Correct. Right. Okay.
Shinde, let me take this question.
Right. Yeah.
I think as far as the future is concerned, the overall scheme of things have to change. We may have to make that shift from what we are today. We cannot conventionally do what we were doing in the past, mainly because of 2 or 3 reasons. The first reason is the opportunities are going to be more in every field of study. Whatever the thing that we had in the past, like a few programs had lots of demand, the rest of the programs did not have demand, kind of thing is not there in the future. There will be enough opportunities every walk of life. The moment that is going to come in, the students are going to choose the programs which are close to their heart, which they like most. Thereby, the passion component is going to come in. Once the passion component is coming, there's no pressure of learning at all. Everybody is trying to learn things because they like it. I think, therefore, the digital transformation to some extent will also help them in a way to learn things a little faster than what they were doing in the past. The other thing which I also would like to indicate that the knowledge is going to be free in the future. In the sense, abundant content is available from various sources. The challenge in the future is going to be, especially for teachers, the challenge is going to be, how do you curate that? How do you take that content and customize it to your requirements? Customize it to your way of teaching. That's point number 1. Point number 2, how do we assimilate? How do we put them together, combine, because they're from different sources, whether the flow is going to be same, etc. The third thing is going to be application part of it. The application part of the knowledge is going to be very, very critical in the future, because we are trying to prepare our students for what is called a VUCA world. You know that. That's volatility, then uncertainty, the ambiguity, complexity. This is the kind of thing that we're going to have. This nothing is known. We are trying to handle some complex problems in the future. Therefore, every kind of technology, other things have to be used the way they have to be used. Of course, this all one thing is very clear. Anything in excess may not be good. I think we need to use in the right mix. Therefore, that balance has to be arrived at. Whatever that works for me may not work for somebody else. Therefore, it's necessary for customizing each one of us, each one of the things to our requirements. Therefore, the right blend of things is required. In other words, that's exactly what I mentioned in the beginning. The personalized learning through a customized content is going to be the key. Therefore, it's necessary to do that, but definitely it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it takes about 5 to 10 years to reach that particular kind of a state. Therefore, slowly we must do that. We must keep our eyes and ears open all the time and embrace that change that's going to happen. We cannot outright reject, not adopt digital transformation at all. We cannot be in isolation at all. I would recommend use the digital transformation to the extent that you are comfortable with, to the extent that's required. I think that's the right approach to be taken rather than outright rejecting it. That's my comment. Madam Rama Patnaik can also add 1 or 2 points if I missed out any.
Yes, you are exactly right, sir. 200% correct. So, not overdoing the things, right? Not it's not digitalization is not just hanging to the screens or always with the phone or always with the laptop. That is not digitalization. That is not digital learning, right? That's what I have been telling. Our approaches has to be different, right? How do you make your student to learn is more important rather than making the people always on the screen, increasing their screen time. No, that is not the one, right? Point number 1. Point number 2, which I wanted to focus again is, right, whatever we were doing last year, in last 2 years, is not a proper digitalization, right? There is a different approach which starts from your lesson plans. Then I have been seeing a couple of questions. What kind of assessments are with reference to NEP? How long it will take to implement NEP? There are a couple of more questions. So the answer is you need to start the journey now, today, right? This hour, right? So to start thinking in that particular process and learning yourself, you also have to be a lifelong learner now as teachers, as principals and all that. And start one by one. I just read yesterday, government is starting in 2022 January. I think they have recently launched the training programs for teachers on NEP, right? Maybe you must be getting your slots or schedules and all. Please do attend, right? And write to us back if you have any more queries or if you need a specific dedicated session, right? We are open to conduct those kind of sessions for you as workshops and all. We can do that also, right?
Right, Rama, thank you so much. There's another one question.
Can I add one point?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, please.
This is in continuation with what Vice Chancellor and Rama Patnaik just now told you about the adoption of Indians to the new things that are going to come. We are a very traditionally bound society, as all of us know. However much we do speak, the changes are slow in our country. What the people who are listening to this program can do is, what are the changes that are required that has to be brought to the notice of the parent in the parent interactions that you hold in the school. It is an induction program, we call it. When the student comes to the college, we normally say the culture of the college, the way in which the classes happen, the way the assessments are made, we speak about this to the students. But the parents are not generally taken to confidence. So one thing that could be done as an initiative in order to change the attitude of the parents towards this is one change in your institution of not admitting only the students who have got the highest marks in your institution. This has been done in many institutions as an experiment today in the city of Bangalore, and they are finding it successful. I am not going to focus 100% on the marks obtained by the child, but I also talk to the child and find out in what is he good about. Supposing there is a good sportsman, a good orator, a good music student, I will be able to give a seat to the student. Therefore, the things will start from the institution. And as Rama Patnaik was telling earlier, now refers to Facebook, the WhatsApp, or the Google, or the even in the Infosys, for example, they are not recruiting the engineers today. They are recruiting the BSc graduates with PCM as the combination. And also there are many students who have finished the pre-university, but they have got a good skill in computer. At the level of employment, it is happening. But at the level of the education institution, it is not happening. For example, engineering admission, again, it is marks based. But of course, we have got the competitive examination that is conducted. The student needs to show a different kind of ability. I would like to make one point clear, especially with reference to Karnataka State. We have seen the students who have got 90%, 93% in the pre-university getting the last ranks in CTE. Whereas the students who have got the less marks in the pre-university examination gets the top score in the CTE. For what does it mean? The kind of the critical thinking that is there, the logical thinking that is there, they also need to be developed. Therefore, not simply the marks as a criteria, there are certain other personality factors which also come into play. It is going to happen. It has already started, and this will take a little time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. There's one last question, and very relevant when it comes to that. We are actually seeing a lot of webinars where or the information on NAP, where people are talking about changes. But then, what would be the inputs to today's teachers for their upskillment? How do they look at upskilling? Rama, would you like to take this up?
Yeah. So fine, friends, like that's a quite relevant, it's just not a upskilling, right? It is like a journey, a new journey starts, right? New journey starts. And as the new journey starts, somewhere we have to, start our first step, right? So friends, in my previous slide, I was telling that it's not just the training part, right? And, we need to have an internal team which actually makes this kind of shift in the teachers' culture, right? Shift in the school culture, shift in the parents' culture, shift in the, even in the students and all that, right? What is the shift? What is the shift? Is first thing is, how do I unlearn what I have learned, right? Most of us has expressed that, is it possible? Do parents agree? Do society agree? Can we go away from the marks, right? There was a lot of questions which have been saying. First thing is, all these questions are raised only because we are unable to unlearn what we have learned, right? So I request all of you to come with an open mind first to accept this particular change. That is the step one. The upskill starts from accepting this particular change. That is the step one, right? After that, maybe you can have an internal meeting on what is your strategy of this change, right? What is that the few skills I have to know? Is it technical things you have to know, or is it pedagogy things, or is it looking at your subject in a different way? What is it, right? First sit and decide upon your skills, what you have to upgrade. As I told you, friends, every teacher needs a different customized learning path. Now, as you are preparing for your students a customized personal path, you also require a customized personal path. So maybe you can look at some of the experts, right? Invite them for a couple of workshops, and I say that with open mind, start this particular journey, right? It's just not upskill. It is a journey, a new journey which you have to start.
Thank you so much, Rama.
Right.
With this, I think if there are any more questions, you can always mail it to us, and we would also look at if you have any suggested topics from all the teachers who are currently and the principals who are there currently on this call. If you want any specific topics that you would want us to deliver, you can share that with us on an email that has been shared on the screen, and we will work with our list of speakers and the experts, and with them we will be able to come and frame particular programs for all of you.
Shinde, I would like to just add one point to all what have been
Yes,
said.
sir.
One thing is that there's no need to make a U-turn on any of these things. You try to make incremental improvements with regard to what you have been doing. For example, you're using a pedagogy like using Blackboard. Continue to use Blackboard if you are really comfortable. There's nothing wrong with it. The digital kind of things can be used if you are comfortable using them. Over a period of time, pick it up. In what way you can improve your the overall content delivery. Start adapting one by one. I think most of us have migrated from Blackboard teaching to the PPT presentations over a period of time. We need to be really mastering it over a period of time. Make the small transitions in the next 5 to 10 years. Decide which pedagogy would suit you really well and adopt that. There's nothing wrong with any of the pedagogies that we have been using at present. We can continue with that. Make improvements every time. If there's some improvement, if you're comfortable, please use that. I strongly suggest do not make any migration, new technology, because there's a technology available. Definitely make a migration, make a change. If you feel that new method or new teaching pedagogy is comfortable to you to use. Because if you're going to migrate to something which you're not comfortable with, then nothing will go really well in the classroom. I would suggest continue the pedagogy which you like most, which you're passionate about. Continue that. No, nothing wrong with that.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, with this, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to all the speakers, to the Vice Chancellor, sir, to Professor Ganesha, and to Madam Rama Patnaik, and to all the teams of all the cluster teams of the Anand Sagar University. We have informed all our clusters to extend this invitation to all the schools with whom we are actually trying to work out on a collaborative model where the inputs coming in from the schools or the pain points that are there in the schools, if it is brought to our notice, we will be able to help you with certain expert guidance from the list of people who are associated with the Anand Sagar University. We would definitely like to look under the DSU school development initiatives to see how all our partner schools can keep progressing and can be look forward to giving better services to our children. So with this, I would like to take the permission from all of you, and we would like to end today's session. We will communicate with you about the next trainings, about the next topic and the next training session in the coming week. Look forward to the schedules coming in from our cluster heads, and we will be happy to see you again for our next training programs. Thank you so much to one and all. Stay safe and have a pleasant day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Hemant, you can stop the screen sharing.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.